They shoved me out on his father's memorial night. My husband Noah hissed, "Thief!" And his mother, Mrs. Carter, slapped me so hard my ears rang. I'm Riley. I stood there with bruised skin, shaking hands, and one card left to play a truth sharp enough to cut this family open. Ever been thrown out of your own home like trash? If you were me, would you swallow it? Or burn the script they wrote for you? My chest pounded. Don't cry. Remember, survive. Noah sneered. You're nothing without us. Shocking, right? Here's the twist he's about to learn: who owns the ground he walks on. If this hits a nerve, tap like, drop a comment, share it. Because humiliation in silence is how abusers win, and I refuse to be quiet. I left that house with a swollen cheek, a suitcase that didn't zip right, and a spine made of splinters. On the curb, under that cold porch light, I heard Noah spit. You're nothing without us. Mrs. Carter added, girls like you should be grateful for crumbs. If you've ever been told you're lucky to be abused, you know the kind of silence that follows. It's not empty. It's loud. It roars in your chest. I called a rideshare with shaky hands and sat in the back seat, tasting blood and humiliation. The driver glanced at me in the mirror. I said, allergies, because sometimes survival is just 2 syllables that buy you a little privacy. At my friend's apartment, I sat on the bathroom floor with the shower running so she wouldn't hear me cry. Here's the hook: while I was counting my bruises, I remembered something they forgot. A conversation months back, a stack of papers, a notarized form, my name on a deed. Yeah, that house, the one they threw me out of like yesterday's trash. It wasn't their house, it was mine. Long story short, my aunt had left me a chunk of money after she passed. I invested it, quietly, safely. When Noah and I were building our future, he didn't ask where the down payment came from. He just bragged about his home. I let him. Sometimes silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Are you with me? If you were me, would you keep quiet? Or would you document everything and wait? I pulled out a shoebox from my closet at my friend's place. Inside, copies of emails, bank transfers, the deed with my name, and a digital backup on a drive labeled with the most boring title imaginable: tax receipts. You'd be amazed how nosy people stop reading when things look boring. I snapped photos of my bruises, time-stamped, saved to the cloud. I wrote down verbatim what they yelled at me. Thief! Worthless! Take your junk and go. Those words are knives when you hear them. They're evidence when you repeat them back in a calm room. Next morning, I found a lawyer. Not a flashy one, just someone precise. He listened, didn't flinch, and said, "You've got more than a story. You've got standing." He explained it all like he was reading a recipe. Step 1, secure the property records. Step 2, file to enforce possession. Step 3, protective order for safety. Nothing dramatic, just the quiet machinery of consequence. I kept thinking, why am I the one who feels guilty when I'm the one who followed the rules? Anyone else feel that? Drop a comment if that's ever been you carrying shame that isn't yours. We mapped a timeline. We drafted a letter, certified mail. We included copies of the deed, the payment records, and a polite, razor-sharp sentence. You are occupying premises you do not own. I wanted to add, and you hit the owner. My lawyer shook his head. Let the facts speak. So I did, but in my chest, a drumbeat. Don't cry, remember, survive. Do you hear it too? Before we filed, I called my bank and froze everything Noah could touch. He used to say, what's mine is ours. What's yours is ours. Cute line, right? Translation, control. I switched passwords. 2-factor authentication on everything. Set alerts so if a mouse sneezed near my account, I'd know. You know what rage looks like in 2025? It looks like a spreadsheet. It looks like folders with labels. It looks like a woman learning the difference between joint account and liability. It looks like a paper trail that doesn't blink when someone shouts. Then came the hardest part, telling people the truth without shrinking. We had a disagreement, I said at first, but that wasn't it. He kicked me out. Closer, the truth. They assaulted me and threw me out of a home I paid for. There. If that sentence makes you clench your jaw, hit like. Not for me, do it, so this platform pushes this story to someone who needs to hear they are not crazy. We scheduled the filing for the end of the week. I spent those days sleeping on a couch that smelled like coffee and clean laundry. Every morning, I practiced saying my name like it meant something. I am Riley. I am not property. I am not disposable. If you were in my shoes, would you go back to talk it out? Or would you put on steel-toed boots and walk the legal route? Say it in the comments. I want to know what you'd do, because I already knew what I would. No more pleading, no more performing, no more pretty lies. Just paper, signatures, and a door that would open for the person who actually owned the key. And if you're thinking, this is petty, hear me clearly. Boundaries aren't petty. Accountability isn't petty. When someone weaponizes your love, the kindest thing you can do for both of you is refuse to let them. Subscribe if you want the rest, because the next part, that's where the ground underneath their feet moves, and not because I shouted, but because the truth did. The day we walked back up that driveway, the sky had that flat gray color that makes everything look like a courtroom. My lawyer was calm. The officer with us was calm. I had my hair tied back and my hands in my pockets so no one would see them shake. Mrs. Carter opened the door in a robe like we were selling magazines. "This is harassment," she snapped. The officer read the order. She reached for the paper like she could tear the law in half. "This is our home." The officer replied, steady as a metronome, "Ma'am, the deed isn't in your name." Noah came to the doorway with that smirk he wears when he thinks charm is a language. "Riley, be reasonable." Then, under his breath, the line that used to make me fold, "You need me." I said, "Not today." The officer explained the timeline. 48 hours to vacate, no damage, no interference. Mrs. Carter hissed, "She's a thief." My lawyer lifted a hand toward the documents. "She's the owner." Facts don't raise their voices. They don't need to. Inside, I saw the life I paid for sofas I picked, frames I hung, a kitchen island I cried over while chopping onions and trying to believe I was safe. Funny thing about a house, it remembers who bled for it. I walked room to room, not to gloat, but to say to myself, you weren't crazy, you weren't dramatic, you were dismissed. The fallout started before the 48 hours ran out. Noah's boss called. He wasn't in trouble, yet. But the rumor mill travels faster than compassion. He had always flexed at work about his home, his investments. People love a king until they learn the crown was borrowed. He texted me, "You're ruining my career." I replied, "No, I'm correcting the credits." He wrote back, "You'll regret this." Classic. Abusers write threats like birthday cards personalized, predictable. Mrs. Carter called her sister on speaker, like a theater performance. "She's destroying the family." I stepped into the doorway and said, "I am enforcing a boundary." Do you feel that difference? Family versus boundary. One is a word used to trap you. The other is a word used to free you. If that hit, drop a comment with boundary. Let's see how many of us had to learn that the hard way. They stalled, of course. There were theatrics. Where will we go? You want us on the street? No, I wanted them out of what they never respected. Consequences aren't cruelty, they're alignment. The officer watched, took notes, reminded them of the deadline. We walked out with a set of keys and a list of the items they were allowed to remove. The list didn't include my dignity. That had never been theirs to take. 46 hours later, we returned. The house was eerily clean, like a stage after the show. On the counter, a note from Noah. "You got what you wanted. Happy now?" Here's the honest answer. I wasn't happy. Taking back your house doesn't erase a bruise. It doesn't unsay you're nothing. It just tells the truth on paper so your heart can finally rest. And that is enough. Sometimes enough is everything. The slide started for them slowly, then all at once. A client pulled a contract from Noah. "Unstable home situation," the whisper went. I didn't make that call. I wouldn't. Life did what life does. It revealed. Mrs. Carter tried to spin a story at church. Ungrateful girl. But a woman there had seen my face the night I left. She said. She looked afraid. There's a power in witnesses. If you've ever been one, thank you. You save lives without knowing. I changed the locks. I changed the codes. I changed the air in that house by opening windows and letting the truth blow through. I repainted the bedroom alone. Rolled the walls, slow strokes, a color called warm linen, because for once I wanted a room named after comfort, not control. As the roller moved, I whispered, "This is mine." Not in a greedy way, in a grateful way. The way you say, "my life," when you almost lost it. People asked if I was going to sue for damages. Maybe I could have. But the win I wanted wasn't in a check. It was in a phone that stopped lighting up with threats. It was in sleep that didn't break at 3 a.m. because a door slammed in my memory. The legal process gave me the house back. Taking care of myself gave me back. That's the part they didn't anticipate. They thought I wanted revenge. I wanted rest. When I finally stood on that porch with new locks and a quiet heart, I turned the camera on and said to anyone who might stumble across my story, if you've ever been told you're less than, listen. Paper beats gaslight. The truth will hold even when your knees shake. If this landed, hit like so, the algorithm throws this lifeline to someone drowning. Subscribe if you want the next chapter, because what I did with that house is the part that turns anger into purpose. And if you're angry right now on my behalf, good. Stay. We're going to use that fire for something that matters. I didn't want a museum of hurt. I wanted a home with a heartbeat. So I started with rituals, small, unfancy ones. Coffee at the kitchen island I cried over. Music low enough to hear my own breathing. A journal on the counter where recipes used to go. Because now the recipe was for a life that didn't revolve around not upsetting someone else. The first entry said, "You are allowed to be loved without being controlled." If that sentence helps you, borrow it. Write it on a sticky note. Put it in your wallet. We forget simple truths when we've been shouted over. The divorce moved forward, papers, signatures, statements. Noah sent one last message. "You'll come crawling back." I recorded the audio of the notification ding and renamed it Comedy. Every time it played, I smiled. The court granted the order. Clean lines, legal language. The past now had a folder and a date. Freedom sometimes looks like stapled pages with stamps on them. I got an offer to consult for a design firm I'd admired for years. They didn't know the whole story. They just liked the way I solved problems. That became my quiet miracle, being seen for my brain, not my tolerance to mistreatment. I bought a peace lily and put it by the window. People say those plants are hard to kill. I wanted to believe I wasn't. And then the idea came, not a lightning bolt, more like a sunrise. This house had cost me. It should pay forward. I cleared the spare bedroom. I turned the dining room we never used into a meeting space. I called a therapist I trusted, a lawyer who cared, a shelter director who'd held my hand in a waiting room once, and I asked, if I opened my doors, what would help? We made a plan. Small workshops for women leaving violent homes, budgeting basics, legal literacy, safety planning. Not glossy, not performative, practical. 2 hours, coffee provided, no judgment. We named it The Ground. Because that's what gets taken from you when someone makes you feel like you don't belong anywhere. First night, 6 women came. One with a hoodie up, one with sunglasses at 7 p.m., one who held her car keys like a lifeline. I told my story without the gory details. I said, I believed love meant staying quiet. I was wrong. Love means safety. The woman in the hoodie nodded once, like a verdict had landed. We printed worksheets with simple lines. What do you control? What don't you? We listed hotlines. We practiced saying no out loud in a room where nobody punished us for it. It felt small. It felt holy. Word spread. Not viral, just steady. A social worker called. Can we send someone? Yes. A nurse reached out. We see injuries no one reports. Come over. I partnered with a local nonprofit to make sure we did everything by the book. We got a tiny grant that covered childcare during sessions. The sound of toddlers laughing in the living room while their mothers learned how to open bank accounts without a cosigner? That sound softened something in me I thought was permanently hard. Mrs. Carter sent me a letter once. We should talk. I wrote back, I wish you healing. I'm unavailable. That wasn't revenge. It was a boundary wrapped in grace. People think forgiveness is letting someone off the hook. I think forgiveness is laying down the rope so they stop dragging you. Are you with me? If you've ever forgiven from a distance, drop a distance in the comments. Let's normalize safety. 3 years in, the ground outgrew my house. That's when I made the decision that made the news. We moved the workshops to a bigger space and converted the house into a transition hub, short stays, locked safes, a pantry that never ran out, a closet organized by size so nobody had to ask for jeans like they were begging. I stood on the porch the first morning and thought, they said I was nothing without them. Turns out, I'm more myself than I've ever been. And here's the twist I promised. The very place where I was told, you're worthless, is now the place where women hear, you're safe. One night, a participant looked around the kitchen and whispered, it smells like cookies, not fear. I cried in the pantry, quietly, into a bag of flour, because sometimes happiness is so gentle it sneaks up on you. I kept a note taped inside the cabinet. Paper beats gaslight. Truth beats volume. You beat this. I read it every time I doubted. If you're still listening, if your chest is tight, if you're thinking of a friend who makes excuses for bruises that just happen, share this. Not because I need numbers, because someone out there needs a map, and this is mine. Hit like so the algorithm pushes this toward the person who swears there's no way out. Subscribe if you want more tool scripts to say at banks, checklists for court, ways to document safely, and comment if you've ever walked back into a room that once broke you and turned on the lights anyway. I'll end with the line that closes every workshop. You are not hard to love. You are just somewhere love didn't live. If that made your throat ache, it's okay. Mine too. But ache isn't the end. The end is a key turning in a lock, a door opening, and a voice yours saying, come in. You're safe here. Here's where I leave you tonight. I got my house back, my name back, and, slowly, my nervous system back. I still flinch at sudden doors, still count exits in new rooms, but now I count blessings too. Quiet mornings, honest friends, a lock that answers to my key. I keep replaying the question people love to throw at women who finally draw a line. Am I in the wrong? For choosing safety over silence? For making consequences meet the people who earned them? If that's wrong, I can live with it. What I learned, love without safety isn't love. Apologies without changed behavior aren't apologies. Paper beats gaslight, and the voice in your chest, the one whispering, leave, breathe, heal, that's not weakness. That's your life trying to save itself. If any part of this hit home, do one small thing for yourself tonight. Write down a boundary you're keeping. And if you want this story to reach someone who needs a map, tap like, drop a comment, tell me your line in the sand, and share it with a friend. Subscribe if you want more real talk and practical tools, scripts, checklists, lifelines. However you found me, I'm glad you did. You're not hard to love. You're just starting to love yourself right.